to know that as far as we know, they go back a very long time. Now, many years ago, there was a vicar. He didn't collect things, but he studied the ancient Egyptians. And he was allowed by the Egyptians to go out there and do some excavating and exploring. And he found the grave of a little Egyptian girl who had died roughly 2000 BC, so that's roughly 4,000 years ago, isn't it? And in her grave, and this is why I told you to sit sideways, then you can look at me and look in the glass, he found her grave dolls. Can you see them? Now, they're not exactly dolls, they're figures. They're called Ushabti grave figures, and they were put into the graves of some of them. So we know that 4,000 years ago, people did have one or two toys. Now, many, many years went by, we don't know much about toys at all, till all of a sudden, about 300 years ago, there was a big interest taken in professionally made toys. And you know the difference, don't you, between professional things and jolly good, they were made of wood. So, for the interest of the boys, this year I've put an old cart. It's not as old as that, but it is quite old, behind that old monk over there. Can you see the old monk by the cart? And if you can't see it now, don't worry, you can all have a look at it afterwards. But the things that were really very special, 20 years old. Now that's a long time ago that was made, isn't it? And you see, people didn't have electricity and they didn't have eyes, you see. And then she's got all her fingers carved and they're all there. Can you see that? Even though they had very crude tools. She's got her original clothes on, now the clothes of a rather wealthy lady. And I wonder if anybody can tell me, why do you think she's got that ball hanging down from her waist? Now it's got a real purpose. What do you think? What do you think?
It has feet and stuff with it.
It did. Now why do you think that was then?
Because then
to make that doll. Good. What made you think that that was wax? Do you think, was it just a jolly good guess? Well, it was a good guess. Yes, it's right. And you thought so? Yes, and away on holiday. And they left their key with a kind neighbour. And the day they were coming back, it was very cold. So the kind neighbour thought, well, a lot of foreigners tell me that as well, doll collecting foreigners.
Yes.
So I think perhaps it must be.
yes.
Are you open all year?
All but 2 months.
I see.
We close in January and February because we've got to get the glass out to clean everything and alter it. And
That must be a delicate business.
Has she really? A set of the same ones?
Yeah. No, but they're
Similar ones.
the same, but they've got nursery rhymes.
Ah, nursery rhymes.
How the villa was discovered. How on earth did people know that there were Roman ruins here? Because this was once a field, and these ruins were beneath the ground, alright? Well, we have to go back in time, over 100 years in fact, to the year 1879. Living in Brading at that time was a man called Captain Thorpe, and he was a retired army man. And he was very interested in history and archaeology. And he used to enjoy walking pottery, and he realised that it was in fact Roman pottery, a particular type of Roman pottery called Samian ware, which was made in France in Roman times. And you'll be able to see some Samian ware here in the cases. So have a look around, won't you? See if you can spot the Samian ware long poker. With this iron rod, he used to walk the fields and probe the ground beneath the fields. Imagine what a funny sight it must have been all those years ago to see this man bending over the ground, probing down into the soil with this long iron poker. Well, all his efforts were rewarded because he did in fact hit walls, as you can see. That they weren't just houses, as many of you might think. They were not just houses because villas were rather special. So although we have house helping the lady, one of those duties would have been to polish mosaic floors to bring bright colours up, make them shine. And they would have used a beeswax polish to polish the floor. And they kept these here on the now, stone, protruding around the walls. Can you see all the stone? You can, can't you? Well, there would have been plaster. The walls would have been plastered. And here, in fact, we have some plaster still adhering to the walls. You can see that, can't you? And over this plaster, there would have been wall paintings. And I want you all to have a look in the cases, because in some of the cases you will see some fragments of wall paintings from the Grading Roman villa. This chamber into 2 rooms. Now, if you were going to have a party here, this would be the place where you would have it, because you could draw back that curtain and create one huge room. Right. Now, as you can see, there are lots of different pictures in this mosaic floor, and I shall describe them to you, starting here at the bottom. And at the bottom we have a rectangular picture, and on either end we have 2 sea creatures which are half man and half seahorse. Now, has anybody heard anybody know the name that we give to a man who is half man and half horse? A mythological creature. No, are 2 beautiful mermaids. And then in the centre of the picture, we have a merman. But this merman has got 2 tails. So we call him a bi-tailed merman. And all the creatures here in this picture are from the sea. And in Roman times, the sea was particularly important to this villa, because unlike today, where the sea is several miles away from here, in Roman times it was only a few hundred yards away. It came, in fact, almost to the bottom of the field, just outside here. Have a look when you go outside the villa, won't you?
I think so, yeah.
Ready? They go.
Yeah, let's keep going.
In the garden,